What if everything you thought you knew about Meghan Markle was a lie? Not just a royal exaggeration or a PR makeover, but a carefully crafted illusion built atop yachts, billionaires, and secrets guarded by the most dangerous socialite of our time, Ghislaine Maxwell. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Imagine this. The Duchess of Sussex, now a symbol of modern monarchy, women's empowerment, and social justice, once allegedly mingling with men whose names you'd only find behind sealed court documents. Men with power, wealth, and silence bought at a price. All orchestrated by a woman now imprisoned for trafficking underage girls for a global network of elites. What if Ghislaine Maxwell didn't just keep secrets about Epstein? What if she knew things about Meghan Markle? Before Harry, before Hollywood, before Suits, that could dismantle the public image she's worked so hard to build? And what if, buried in those sealed court records, was proof? Real names, dates, photos, videos, flight manifests, offshore transactions, private island logs, all pointing to a time in Meghan's life she never wanted the world to know existed. Sounds unbelievable, right? That's exactly what they want you to think. Because here's the part no one is talking about. Not in the tabloids, not in the documentaries, not even in the conspiratorial corners of the internet that claim to know everything. There's a trail, not a perfectly straight one, but one littered with whispers, anonymous leaks, redacted testimonies, and digital fingerprints scattered across continents. A trail that begins in the Mediterranean, on a yacht docked off the coast of Amalfi, and somehow ends at Buckingham Palace. You see, Ghislaine Maxwell didn't just socialize with politicians and pedophiles. She mingled with Hollywood agents, fashion moguls, PR managers, royal consultants. And through these circles, a young, ambitious actress named Meghan Markle reportedly found herself stepping into a world far darker than the glittering lights she chased. A world of luxury, yes, but also control, manipulation, transactions behind smiles. And now, as Ghislaine rots in a cell and the whispers grow louder, something chilling has surfaced. A piece of evidence. No, multiple pieces. Diaries, photos, voice notes, even a list. And right there, in black ink on expensive paper, the name Meghan Markle. No aliases, no redactions, just her real name, sitting among names you wouldn't dare read out loud in polite company. So why does this matter now? Because the royal facade is crumbling. Netflix has distanced itself. Spotify called her not a team player. Archewell is hemorrhaging credibility. And behind closed doors, palace insiders whisper of Charles's regret, William's rage, and Harry's silence. But all of that pales in comparison to what Maxwell's people might have just leaked. This is more than a tabloid scandal. This is the rewriting of a public narrative that shaped global perception for the past 5 years. Because if this story is true, if Ghislaine's evidence is real, then the carefully curated image of Meghan Markle as a self-made actress turned royal rebel collapses into a web of calculated seduction, power plays, and favors exchanged for status. And if this is how it all began, what else has been hidden? So in this investigation, we're not going to rely on recycled gossip or rehashed headlines. We're diving deep into a world that only a few have dared to explore, a world where the line between victim and architect isn't just blurred, it's weaponized. We'll trace her steps from yacht decks to royal corridors. We'll unpack names that have been protected for far too long. And we'll ask the questions that no mainstream outlet has had the courage or the clearance to ask. Like, who was Meghan really working for during those mysterious overseas trips? Why were some photos of her on luxury yachts scrubbed from the web after 2016? And why did Ghislaine Maxwell, of all people, reportedly name-drop her to her lawyer before her sentencing hearing? Coincidence? Or a final card played by a woman who knows too much? You see, timing is everything. Why now? Why is this leaking now? Because powerful people are turning on each other. Deals are unraveling. Empires are collapsing. And when the house of cards starts to fall, the first secrets to surface are the ones buried deepest. But let's rewind for just a moment. Let's go back to the summer of 2014. Meghan Markle was still relatively unknown, a supporting actress on a legal drama. No royal ties, no podcast deals, no Vogue covers, Just another attractive, ambitious woman trying to break into elite society through charm, intellect, and, according to some sources, access to private events funded by the world's richest men. That summer, off the coast of Italy, a yacht party took place that was so exclusive, most guests didn't even know who invited them. Invitations were whispered, flights were unlisted, phone cameras were confiscated, and the guest list? Controlled by Maxwell's network. Among the guests, a Saudi tycoon with political immunity, a Hollywood producer with ties to Weinstein, a PR firm CEO known for rebranding celebrities post-scandal, and a woman listed only as M. Markle, Canada. That name wasn't on the final press photos. It didn't appear in the Instagram tags or Facebook albums. But it was there, written in pen, signed in a guest book that was never meant to leave the yacht. That book is now part of what some allege to be Ghislaine's final card. A vault of documents prepared in case she didn't make it out alive, as one source close to her described. And now, that card is in play. But this isn't just about Meghan's past. This is about what that past says about the present. Because if even a fraction of these allegations are true, if even one of those photos, names, or stories connects back to the Duchess, then the royal family is sitting on a time bomb. One they can no longer defuse with PR statements or glossy magazine features. It all comes down to this. Can you rewrite your past when someone else has already written it down? That's what we're here to find out. So buckle up. Over the next 13 chapters, we're peeling back the layers of a carefully buried secret. We'll hear from insiders. We'll explore leaked files. We'll decode cryptic texts and reconstruct timelines the public was never supposed to see. This isn't just a documentary. It's an expose, and when it's over, you may never look at Meghan Markle or the royals the same way again. But just before we dive into the hidden files, before we examine the first yacht manifest and the blurred photos sent to a London tabloid in 2017, let me leave you with this. What if the person sitting beside Prince Harry at the royal wedding, smiling in white, wasn't the innocent bride the world believed, but a woman who had already made powerful enemies and traded powerful secrets? What if the fairy tale was the final chapter of a completely different book? Because what came before the tiara wasn't a love story. It was a game. And Ghislaine Maxwell? She may have just flipped the board over. And what she revealed changes everything. What exactly did Ghislaine Maxwell reveal? And why is Meghan Markle's name allegedly buried in the depths of those sealed records? Imagine a vault. Cold, dark, untouched for years. Inside, hundreds of pages. Names. Handwritten notes. Partial flight logs, voice memos, guest books, code words, transaction records, digital files on USB drives labeled not with names, but symbols. Now imagine Ghislaine Maxwell sitting alone in her prison cell, knowing she's facing decades behind bars, knowing her silence protected billionaires, world leaders, and yes, even celebrities the public adores. So she makes a decision. She prepares a file, a bomb. A carefully curated archive of secrets no one thought would ever see the light of day. And in the middle of it, allegedly, sits Meghan Markle's name. How? Why? Let's unravel it. It began during Maxwell's sentencing. While the world focused on Epstein, the media spotlighted the teenage victims, and the royals distanced themselves from Prince Andrew's disastrous ties. Something else was happening behind closed doors. Ghislaine's legal team was quietly negotiating. Not for freedom. That was off the table. But for leverage, safety, insurance. You see, people like Ghislaine don't go down without leaving something behind. Her lawyers pushed for sealed exhibits. They argued sensitive third-party references. That's legal code for very famous people in very compromising situations. And the judge agreed. Only a fraction of the court files ever made it to the public. The rest? Buried under protective orders. But here's where it gets strange. Sources close to the case say Ghislaine instructed her team to package a red file. Not for court, not for prosecutors, for private use. That file, according to whispers now circulating among high-level journalists and ex-Intel operatives, includes names outside the usual Epstein orbit. Not just politicians, but actors, influencers, royals, women. And that's where Meghan Markle allegedly appears, in a subfolder titled Private Networking 2010 to 2015. What does that even mean? Let's break it down. This was the golden era of Ghislaine's influence outside Epstein's direct scandal. She hosted her own events, curated yacht parties, worked with modeling agencies, pitched documentaries, managed elite guest lists for tech conferences, UN galas, fashion shows in Monaco, and private recruitment for undisclosed clientele. You didn't need to be rich to be useful. You needed to be interesting, beautiful, ambitious, willing. And during that time, Meghan Markle was a struggling actress with limited screen time on Suits, trying to make connections, traveling frequently, and allegedly mingling with people who could open doors to wealth, fame, global visibility. Is that a crime? Of course not. But it raises questions, especially when you consider what the file allegedly includes. One insider claims the documents mention a now-defunct PR agency based in Toronto. This same agency, known for placing up-and-coming actresses into high-society parties, reportedly worked directly with Ghislaine's event coordinators in Europe. Guess who one of their listed clients was in 2014? M. Markle. Coincidence? Or a connection? And here's where it gets even more explosive. A spreadsheet, leaked, allegedly, from the Red File. Cross-referenced names, yacht trips, dates, locations, some names blurred, others redacted. But one line remains untouched. July 23, 2014. Amalfi, Canada. Evening arrival, escorted by RM. RM. Those initials appear several times throughout the document. Sometimes with other women. Sometimes with coded language like presented to H or scheduled introduction. H. That initial sends chills, doesn't it? Now, does this prove Meghan Markle was part of Ghislaine's network? Not yet. But the breadcrumbs are impossible to ignore. And here's the kicker. That same spreadsheet allegedly shows two men tied to the British establishment, one of whom was later quietly removed from a royal advisory board in 2019. Again, coincidence? Or damage control? Let's go deeper. Ghislaine kept diaries. Old-fashioned, handwritten diaries. Legal sources have confirmed their existence. Though most pages are deemed irrelevant to the Epstein case, several entries include names tied to modeling agencies, networking events, and new prospects. Prospects? It sounds like a job interview. But for what? One entry dated September 2014 reportedly reads, Canada girl. Very poised. Smart. Could be useful. Or thinks she's ready. Her eyes remind me of Diana's. Let that sink in. Her eyes remind me of Diana's. Who was Ghislaine talking about? Some believe it was Meghan. Because only weeks later, Meghan was spotted at a fashion event in Milan, accompanied by the same woman who allegedly worked as Ghislaine's social liaison in Europe. And then, silence. No public record. No tabloid photos. Nothing for 2 months. Until Meghan reappears. In London. Attending a charity event. Meeting new contacts. Smiling for cameras with rising British aristocrats. A meteoric social leap. One that defied logic at the time. But now, through the lens of the Maxwell file, starts to look orchestrated. And here's what really disturbs people familiar with the case. The file doesn't accuse Meghan of wrongdoing. It uses her name. As a reference. A connection. An asset. The same way Ghislaine used photographers, assistants, and party planners. Allegedly, Meghan wasn't just a guest. She was a tool. A part of the machinery. Knowingly or not. That's still up for debate. But if Ghislaine considered her useful, it suggests a much deeper relationship than the public ever imagined. And remember, this isn't tabloid fiction. These allegations are surfacing from people who've read sealed court documents. People who handled the evidence. People who now fear for their safety. But why release it now? Because Ghislaine has nothing left to lose. And because the media is finally distracted enough to let something slip through the cracks without a full-blown panic. Perfect timing. Now ask yourself, why has Meghan Markle never addressed these rumors? She's addressed racism, tabloid harassment, her mental health, even Netflix scripts. But not once has she acknowledged the yacht allegations. Not once has she challenged the circulating lists. Not once has she confronted the old photos that get scrubbed hours after they resurface. Why? Because silence is safer? Or because denial would require drawing attention to a chapter she's desperately trying to bury? Here's what's even more telling. Several celebrities linked to Ghislaine, people with far less at stake, have released statements, clarified their presence at events, denied involvement, offered timelines, Meghan? Nothing. And when asked about her rise to fame, she always references hard work, networking, luck, and grit. Never once does she mention who invited her to Europe, who paid for those flights, who arranged the yacht stays, who made the introductions. Just friends. But who were those friends? Because the people connected to Ghislaine Maxwell didn't make casual friends. They made investments. And Meghan Markle? She was one of the most profitable investments of the last decade. From C-list actress to royal bride to global brand. That's not just luck. That's strategy. And someone, somewhere, helped architect it. So the question becomes, who really discovered Meghan? Who introduced her to power? And why is Ghislaine Maxwell allegedly sitting on evidence that ties her into a world Meghan claims she never knew? Because the next document, the next photograph, the next leaked email could blow it all wide open. And when it does, the palace won't be able to protect her. Not anymore. Not when Ghislaine's red file starts unraveling the lie. Not when the world starts asking the same question that's been quietly whispered in the shadows for years. Was Meghan Markle a princess in waiting? Or a player in a game far more dangerous than the crown ever imagined? The answer might be found off the coast of Amalfi, on a yacht, with a guest list no one was supposed to see. But what came next would make even that look tame. Because the Amalfi yacht? That wasn't the beginning. It was just the first invitation.